Dale spent 30 years carrying mail in the Arizona sun, and the brown spots on the backs of his hands had faded into the background of his own body years ago. But one of them had started to change. The edges were going ragged, and the color wasn't one shade of brown anymore. It was three. He almost didn't mention it. Here's the thing most people never learn. The vast majority of the brown spots on your hands, your face, your neck are completely harmless. But your skin writes two very different messages using the exact same brown ink. And telling them apart is a skill, not a guess. Miss the difference, and a spot that could have been handled in a 5-minute office visit becomes something much bigger. So I'm going to show you the 4 kinds of brown spots almost everyone over 50 has, which 3 you can safely leave alone, and the one changing pattern that means you call a dermatologist this week. I'm Dr. Tom. I spent the better part of my career as a board-certified emergency physician in U.S. hospitals, and I want to be honest with you about why this topic matters to me. The emergency room is where I met the people who waited, not because they were careless, but because nobody ever taught them the difference between a spot that is just age and a spot that is a warning. That difference is learnable in the next 15 minutes, and once you have it, you carry it for the rest of your life. Let me start by clearing away a myth, because it's costing people trust in their own skin. You've probably heard these called liver spots, and a lot of folks quietly assume that means their liver is dumping toxins, that the spots are proof something inside is dirty or backed up. I want to say this plainly, because there's a lot of noise online about it. Those brown spots on your hands are not your liver detoxing through your skin. Your liver does not push pigment out to your knuckles. The name is more than a century old and it's stuck around, but there's no real connection between a common age spot and the health of your liver. So if anyone tells you a spot means your liver is failing or sells you a cleanse to erase it, you can let that go right now. What these spots actually are is a record of sunlight, of years, and of how your pigment cells respond to both. Here's what's really happening underneath. Your skin has special cells called melanocytes. Think of them as tiny paint factories, spread out evenly, each one handing pigment to the skin cells around it. When you're young, the paint goes out in a smooth, even coat. That's an even tan, an even tone. But 2 things change that over the decades. Ultraviolet light from the sun tells those factories to make more paint, and it damages the machinery so they stop working in a coordinated way. Instead of a smooth coat, you get clumps. A factory here overproduces, a patch there shuts down, and the places that got the most sun over your life are exactly where you see it first. The backs of the hands, the face, the forearms, the chest, the tops of the ears. That's not a coincidence. That's the map of where the light landed. Now, here's how I want you to use the rest of this. I'm going to walk you through 4 types of brown spots, and I'm going to rank them, from the one you can completely ignore to the one that needs a doctor's eyes. Because that's the whole game here. Not fear, sorting, knowing what's noise and what's a signal. The first type is the solar lentigo. This is the classic age spot, and it's the one almost everyone is looking at. Flat. You can't feel it with your eyes closed because it's level with the skin, smooth as the skin around it. Tan to medium brown, one even color, with a fairly clean border. Round or oval, they tend to show up on the sun-exposed spots we just talked about, and they slowly darken over years. Here's the reassuring part. A solar lentigo is completely benign. It is not cancer, it does not turn into cancer, and it is doing nothing to your health. It is a suntan that got stuck in one spot and never left. The only thing it's telling you is that this patch of skin has seen a lot of sun, which, as we'll get to, is worth knowing for other reasons. If you want it gone for cosmetic reasons, a dermatologist can fade it, but medically, you can leave it alone. That's the first one, and it's the most common. Let me show you the next one, because this is the one that scares people the most and needs it the least. The second type is the seborrheic keratosis, and I wish more people knew this word, because this growth sends more people into a panic than almost anything else on the skin. Here's how you know one. Unlike the flat age spot, a seborrheic keratosis is raised. It sits on top of the skin. The classic description dermatologists use is that it looks stuck on, like a dab of candle wax or a piece of oatmeal pressed onto the surface, and you feel like you could pick it off with a fingernail. They can be tan, brown, even black, and the surface often looks waxy or slightly crumbly. Now, why does this one frighten people? Because when a seborrheic keratosis turns dark and rough, it can look, to an untrained eye, exactly like a melanoma. I have seen people terrified for weeks over a growth that is about as dangerous as a callus. Because that's what this is. A seborrheic keratosis is a benign buildup of ordinary skin cells. It is not cancer, and it does not become cancer. They run in families, they come with age, and it's normal to collect dozens of them. So why am I spending time on something harmless? Because knowing this saves you the panic, and because it teaches you the single most important lesson in this whole video, which is coming up in a moment: 2 harmless spots down. Now the ground starts to shift. The third type is the actinic keratosis, and this is where I want you to lean in, because this is the first one that is not entirely harmless. The tell here is texture. An actinic keratosis is often easier to feel than to see. It's a rough, dry, scaly patch, like a bit of sandpaper on the skin, and it can be pink, red, or tangent brown. It shows up on the places with the heaviest lifetime sun exposure: the face, the ears, the scalp if you're thinning up top, the backs of the hands, the forearms. Sometimes it flakes off and comes right back in the same spot. Here's why it matters. An actinic keratosis is what dermatologists call a precancer. It is the most common precancer there is. The American Academy of Dermatology estimates that actinic keratoses affect around 58 million Americans. Most of them never turn into anything, but a small percentage, over years, can progress into squamous cell carcinoma, a real skin cancer. Think of an actinic keratosis as a smoke detector chirping. Most of the time it's just a low battery, but it is the one alarm on this list worth having a professional look at, because it is far, far easier to freeze off a rough little patch in one visit than to treat what it might slowly become. If you've got a scaly spot that keeps coming back in a sun-exposed area, that's not a spot to fade with a cream from the drugstore. That's a spot to have checked. Which brings me to the fourth type. And this is the one I need you to remember if you forget everything else I say today. This is the changing spot. The one that isn't playing by the rules the other 3 follow. And I'm going to give you the exact tool that dermatologists and emergency doctors use to catch it, because it's simple enough to use tonight in your own bathroom mirror. It's called the ABCDE rule from the Skin Cancer Foundation, and each letter is one warning sign of melanoma, the most dangerous form of skin cancer. A is for asymmetry. A harmless spot is usually symmetric. If you drew a line down the middle, the 2 halves would match. A concerning spot doesn't. One half looks nothing like the other. B is for border. Age spots have smooth, clean edges. A warning spot has a border that's ragged, notched, or blurry, like ink bleeding into wet paper. C is for color. This is the one Dale noticed on the back of his hand. A benign spot is one even shade. A warning spot has more than one color mixed together: brown and black, or flecks of red, white, even blue. D is for diameter. Anything larger than a pencil eraser, about 1/4 of an inch, deserves more attention, though melanomas can absolutely be smaller. And E, the most important letter of all, is for evolving. Any spot that is changing size, shape, color. A spot that starts to itch, to bleed, to crust, and not heal. Your other spots have sat there quietly for years. This one is doing something. That's the signal. Here's the honest number that should reassure you and motivate you at the same time. When melanoma is caught early, before it has spread, The 5-year survival rate is around 99%. When it's caught late, that number falls off a cliff. The entire difference between those two outcomes is often just how early somebody noticed a spot was changing and got it looked at. That is why I'm making this video, not to frighten you, to hand you the 99%. And there's one more trick, simpler than the alphabet, that I love because anybody can do it. The Skin Cancer Foundation calls it the ugly duckling sign. Most of your moles and spots tend to resemble one another, like brothers and sisters. They have a family look. The one to worry about is the ugly duckling, the one that stands out, that doesn't look like any of the others. You don't even need to measure it. Your eye catches it. If one spot on your body just looks different from all the rest, that's the one to point at when you see a doctor. Now, you might be doubting this. You're thinking, I have dozens of these things. Am I supposed to run to a specialist over every one? No. That's the whole point of sorting them. The flat, even unchanging tan spots, leave them. The stuck-on waxy growths, leave them. What earns a phone call is the rough patch that keeps returning. And above all, the spot that is changing, that fails the ABCDE check, or that stands out as the ugly duckling. That's not every spot. That's the specific one. So let's talk about what to actually do, because I never want to leave you worried without a next step. Here in the US, the right person for this is a dermatologist. You can start by mentioning it to your primary care doctor, and for anything clearly benign, that's fine. But for a changing spot, ask for a referral to a dermatologist, or in most states, you can schedule with one directly. If it fails the ABCDE test, or it's the ugly duckling, don't wait for your annual physical. Call and ask to be seen within a week or two, and say the words that get you scheduled faster. I have a mole that is changing. A full skin check is quick, it's usually painless, and if something needs a closer look, a small sample can be taken right there in the office. And let me speak to the cost worry directly, because I know it's real and I know it makes people wait. A skin check is one of the lower cost specialist visits, and if you're on Medicare, a medically necessary skin exam for a suspicious lesion is generally covered. Being checked and told it's nothing is not a waste of anyone's time. That is a good outcome. That's the outcome we want. The expensive path is the one where somebody waits a year on a spot that was whispering the whole time. Now, how do you keep new trouble from forming in the first place? Because every one of these spots traces back to the same source: ultraviolet light. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are blunt about it. Most skin cancers are caused by UV exposure, which means most of them are preventable. And prevention here is not dramatic. Broad-spectrum sunscreen, SPF 30 or higher, on the areas that always get hit: the backs of your hands, your face, your ears, your neck. The American Academy of Dermatology's guidance is simple. Apply it and reapply every 2 hours when you're outside and after you sweat or swim. A wide-brimmed hat does more than most people give it credit for. And if you're a driver, know this: a lot of the sun damage on American faces is worse on the left side, the window side, from years of light coming through the driver's door. Those UV rays come through glass. That's why the mail carrier, the truck driver, the farmer, the golfer tend to show it first. Let me give you the one habit that ties this all together, and it costs you nothing. Once a month, in good light, look yourself over. Same day each month, so you remember. Backs of the hands, forearms, face, ears, neck, and get someone to check your scalp and your back, the places you can't see. You're not trying to diagnose anything. You are simply building a memory of what your normal looks like, so that when one spot starts to change, you notice it early, the way Dale finally did. Take a photo on your phone of anything you're unsure about, and compare it next month. Changing is the whole ballgame. So let me knit this together, because if you remember one thing, I want it to be the sorting, not the fear. 4 kinds of brown spots: the flat, even age spot, harmless, leave it; the raised, stuck-on, waxy growth, Harmless. Leave it. The rough, scaly patch that keeps coming back. That's a precancer. Have it checked. And the changing spot, the one that fails ABCDE or stands out as the ugly duckling, that's the one you get a dermatologist to see. And soon. Most of your spots are just a diary of sunlight. Your only job is to spot the one page that's rewriting itself. Dale's spot, by the way, was caught early. A quick visit, a small sample, and it was handled before it ever became a bigger story. That is what noticing early buys you. Here's your one step for this week. Tonight, in the mirror, run the ABCDE check on the spots you already have. Not all of medicine, just 5 letters. And if one spot on your hands or face has been quietly changing, don't leave it as a someday. Make the call. And if you have a parent, a spouse, someone who spent their working years out in the sun, share this with them, because the back of the hand is the one place they can't quite see, and this might be the thing that gets them looked at in time.